Hello ladies and gentlemen, PlayAsia supplied me with this copy of this game, so if you want to support me and the channel, use the link in the description to go and buy something, and there's also a coupon code you can use to save a couple of bucks off your order. You'll be helping me out and hopefully you'll be buying something good. Thanks for your support, enjoy the show. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I'm here checking out Rune Factory 4 Special. I tell you what's special, this bloody footage. I was recording this just randomly, and I ended up having to do a lot of random wandering to find a particular character in order to actually move the story forward, so that there was actually combat to be done that wasn't like pitifully easy at my current level. So there is a lot of just wandering around, me doing random things and checking out all sorts of silly stuff because, well, that's just the way I roll when it comes to these sorts of games. I can never keep them organized no matter what I try, so yeah, that is absolutely a thing, but thankfully that wandering means that I actually get to show off a lot of mechanics. I show off a fair bit of cooking, I show off some farming, I show off some combat. Didn't show off fishing, but I did show off a special event here and there. But yeah, if there are parts of this video that just end up dull, understand that the reason why I decided to do this post-commentary was because there was no way I was going to be able to make this work in the moment, because there is seriously a fair amount to talk about with this game. So let's get to the basics then. This is a re-release of a 3DS game from, well, I'm not entirely sure how many years ago. It's probably something like 5 at this point. And it is a farming game with a bit of combat, kind of like Stardew Valley, kind of like, I think Recettear is the closest combat I've played to this. But yeah, it's a bit of a time management, balancey sort of thing, where you've got a farm to manage, you've got a story to follow, you've got things to make, things to sell, things to buy, all of that usual stuff. There's a few things that I'll bring up before we start. There are some other modes they have in the main menu, but you don't actually have access to them in the beginning. There is like another episode, I think that's character related stuff. There's a newlywed mode, which I have no experience with whatsoever. I did not play the 3DS version, so I'm not going to be able to tell you what's relatively new about this version in comparison. But I can give you an idea of how the port went, because there are some ways you can definitely tell this was meant to be this was a port from the 3DS. With that said though, let's talk about it. So there's plenty of stuff to do. It works on a day-night cycle with days and seasons and all that. Certain crops only grow at certain times or grow better in certain times. You have to water everything every day, but thankfully they're pretty generous with the rainy weather in this game, which really helps. Not to mention this game's got a really neat mechanic where you can actually recruit monsters. If you just walk up to them and give them food and be like, hey, you want this? A lot of the time they'll just up and join you, which is really cool, because then you can make them not only go and manage your main farm, but you can also have them plant seeds if you become friends enough with them, because this game has friendship levels both for everyone in general and the monsters. So of course it's got that thing going for it where if you find out what someone likes, you can give it to them to increase their relationship level. And of course you've got the actual like wedding and family relationships and stuff like that going on. There's plenty of events going on around town, again, which there's one that's being done in this video. It's at like the half-hour point, I think. I'd be lying if I said I could remember. This is a really long video. There are other things you can do as well. The more things that you do in terms of doing goals for people, killing monsters out in the field, that gives you prince points. The overall story is that everyone thinks you're a prince, and they give you control of the town, then the actual prince shows up, but he's like, oh, I can do a lot of this stuff in the background if you want to take over for the rest of my stuff for me, and well, we do. So you earn prince points, you use that to develop things like monster sheds, you get licenses, you can do festivals, you can do all that sort of junk, and you should probably get as much of that done as possible just for the rewards. Like seriously, some of the rewards I got for doing the festival and winning is kind of ridiculous. It's great. There are also like goals that you have to do. They're orders? No, they're not orders. They're called something else. You'll see me do like 2 of them out the front, because the way they work is that they're goals, but sometimes you can actually do those goals like way ahead of time. Like, there are usually ones like, get an airship license, which is the first one I got in this one. You can get them really early, and then you can just be like, oh, I can just do that right away and just save myself the trouble. The downside is that you only get a certain amount of those orders out the front every day. So it's not so much arbitrarily slowed, because seriously, getting more than like 3 orders done straight away, more than like twice in a row, is really hard. So it's not massively, I wouldn't say that it's massively being held back, but you know, you do definitely have to progress the days and what have you in order to really make some progress. So it's a pretty simple set of goals. Manage your farm, grow your crops, sell them off for money, do your side goals off to the side at the same time, and explore dungeons, which they definitely give you from time to time. It can also, there is like one like super difficult dungeon down in the bottom left corner that gives you monster feed if you really need it, but at the same time everything in there hits like a freaking truck, so you absolutely need to be careful. The game does have difficulties. It has, the difficulties are mainly just how the monsters attack you, whether or not they're really strong or really weak. I've got it set on hard difficulty, and that's close enough to what I prefer, but it's got some really annoying difficulty spikes going on. Thankfully, they're actually really nice, and they let you change the difficulty pretty much anytime you like, as soon as you start the game, basically. So if it gets that difficult, you, well, it's fine, really. Just go and change the difficulty. Notably, dying in this game doesn't do too much to you, although it does cost a fair amount of money sometimes. It's kind of a dice roll whether or not it actually costs you money, so you do need to be kind of careful about that sort of thing. The best thing to do, I've found, is to save scum, because you get save points all over the place. You can use them anytime you like, even when you're in the middle of combat, which is funny. And if you die, you can just close the game, reopen it, and start straight back where you were, but you've got your money and all your resources and stuff. Sometimes you just won't be able to win. That's just something you'll have to deal with, and you'll have to go grind. But outside of that, the difficulty is actually pretty generous. There is also something that's neat that they do tell you about, but I actually found it pretty early on before they mentioned it. And they've got this little fan illustration gallery down in the basement as well, which I thought was just kind of nice. All the art is actually pretty well done. It's for a fan competition, not an actual thing by the developers. I just thought it was kind of neat. But anyway, I'll talk about the gameplay now. So, farming works pretty simply. Hoe the fields, seed the fields, water the fields every day, and that's pretty much how you grow stuff. As I said before, you've got stuff that'll only work on... You've got stuff that'll only really grow in like summer or spring, and the months in this game are the seasons. So it goes spring, summer, fall, and then winter, and it just cycles, and that's where everybody's birthdays and events are. Just this 4-month, 120-day calendar, right? I'm only on day 18, or it starts at like day 16 in this footage and then goes up to like day 20, so I'm not that far in, but I've put a fair few hours into this, so I like to think I have a general idea of what's going on. Yes, you can cook and just make medicine out of items, and this all takes RP, you know, tending your fields, cooking, making medicine and all that. This all takes RP. You've also got special attacks that take RP as well. The special attacks are actually really short on the RP, like they don't use very much of it at all. But it's still worth noting, going out and doing a dungeon in general, not a good idea when you've been doing a ton of farm work. It's not exactly something that's a very good idea at all. However, as I said, they're quite generous with the rainy days, and after a while, you start building up a ton of RP, like not a massive amount, but enough that you can realistically do all your farm work for one day by yourself and then go out and go through a dungeon and not really have a problem whatsoever. It's all benefited by this game's skills system, which is played the Elder Scrolls way. The more you do something, the better you get at it. And there are also things like different weapons, for example. So you'll have like your swords, your long swords, your hammers and your axes, your twin swords, your staves, which are long-range weaponry and stuff like that. At the moment, they haven't really been giving me anything to, like, encourage me to not stick with one weapon or to upgrade one weapon. but you do get, brain work with me here. You do get, come on, brain. I just completely lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. You do get, let me try again. Skills. So, you earn them as you go, and there's tons of them. Like, you get them for individual weapons, you get them for individual elemental resistances, you get them for individual status resistances, you get them for just walking around, you get them for doing all your different farm chores and all that. And as they all level up, you'll get better at those skills, and you'll also get, like, other stat increases. So the more farm work that you do, and the more you level those up, you'll level up your HP and your RP and your strength, and your overall stats will get benefits as well, the more that you do, right? So, yeah, and cooking and mixing medicine and all that, it all feeds back into each other, especially since for certain foods and stuff, you need to go and grow crops. You get the crops, you turn that into food. Then you can either, like, sell the food, because food is actually going to give you a lot of extra money in this game, or you can just do things like, you know, give it to people to increase your relationship with them, and then you can take them out with you into the field, and of course you've got the whole relationship side of things, but I haven't got my relationship level high enough with my choice of waifu yet, despite the fact it's more or less just, here, take my material goods, you love me now, as a sort of thing. Although if you give them the wrong thing, they'll probably come to hate you. I did this by accident by one of the girls you actually rescued from the dungeon. I ended up giving her fish, and turns out the one thing she doesn't like is fish. Fantastic! Great job, me! But yes, you've got relationships with both people and monsters, and it's pretty simple. You give them stuff they like, and they will like you. You can also help them out with their missions from time to time, but you only get like 2 procedural missions on the order board, like, per day, and it's usually a random character that gets picked, so I wouldn't go using that as a major sort of, like, element to upgrading your relationships with other characters. You can also do this with monsters, as I said before. Once you're out in the field, you just give them food, and if you give them enough food, usually when they're really weak, but sometimes you can do it when they're at full health. Like, I will demonstrate capturing monsters multiple times in this footage. But yeah, you give them food and they will come to your side. They'll go to your monster barn. And you need a certain size monster barn in order to hold a certain amount of monsters. So you start out with like 4 monsters, but I immediately upgraded it to 8. And monsters can do all sorts of things for you. The main thing that they can do is not only can they accompany you out on, like, traipses through dungeons, which is highly recommended you get at least one monster to follow you around, by the way, because I actually have one monster called Chesty, who's a mimic. And they have, like, these weird little names for monsters by default, which is great, because some of them are ridiculous. Like, cows just get called Moo, because why not? But as I was saying, the chest monster I have, I called him Chesty. I think his default name was like Mimic or something like that. Also, I'm immature, but his attack was both higher than mine and Forte's, whose literal job it is to guard the town. So that's certainly something. So yeah, it's highly recommended to get a couple of monsters and bring them along with you, because they legitimately are really useful, or at least, you know, members of the townspeople, because, you know, starting out with Forte is actually really strong and actually has, like, built-in healing, so really useful. I haven't used another companion, but, man, it could really do you a favor to bring along a few people that you like. It's really, it's a really good system, because it really helps you out. You really need the distraction when it comes to some of these boss fights, I promise you that much. Because if they go down, it's fine. But if you go down, that's it, back to wherever you came from. Notably, you can actually escape at any time by pressing the right trigger, and it's something I've been doing by accident a lot, and that's kind of frustrating. Because the one thing I don't really get along with in this game is the controls. Just because I actually threw something at that lamb and somehow I managed to capture it. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I did. So yeah, I just caught a sheep. But yeah, the main thing that people and monsters can do for you, or at least monsters, is that you can make them tend to your fields, and for this you will need monster fodder. You need fodder by default, really, but you need monster fodder in order to feed the monsters that are actually working hard. The more you have, the more of a baseline cost there is, but everyone that you have working out in the field will take extra fodder. So you need to keep a decent amount of fodder around in order to, you know, keep your monsters happy. But if you keep your monsters happy, they will go and water the field, they will go and, they'll go and plow it, I think. I'm not entirely sure. I think it depends on the relationship level. And you can also start giving them money once their relationship level is high enough, and they'll go buy you seeds, seed them in, and just do all that work for you so that you've got seeds being automatically planted. And I gotta tell ya, it's kind of hilarious watching a ghost with a scythe, a goblin with a bow, and a mimic watering plants for you. It's kind of great. It's also really useful to keep you from needing to do too much of any particular amount of work. So that's why I recommend keeping like 2 columns worth of stuff for monster fodder so that you've always got enough to feed your helpers. There are also other fields you can go out and just do stuff on, but they, as far as I can tell, you can't actually do anything with them related to the monsters. There are also monsters that will give you like certain things, like the cows will drop milk, the sheep will drop wool, and of course these can also be used for other things. You can make anything from, of course, medicine to food to weapons, which I wasn't able to actually get by the time I recorded this footage, but apparently is really useful towards endgame, or at least I bloody hope it was useful towards endgame. But yeah, the actual gameplay the actual gameplay loop, really satisfying. Get lots of stuff, put it in your farm it out, sell it for money, go out, explore the world, do dungeons, and come back with all your scavenged resources and do it all again. Really satisfying. They give you plenty of different things to make it work, like building up your relationship with people, capturing monsters to take them out into the field with you, giving you plenty of new stuff as you go to make sure that you're consistently engaged, that they pace the add-ons of stuff really well, like they pace like festivals, they pace new items via the objective system, they pace new story beats, although I did have to wander around a little bit to get them to trigger. They pace everything really well so that you're constantly getting new stuff, and it's really nice. It's just well done, and I found myself playing a lot more of this game than I might have anticipated. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to keep playing it because I've got way more stuff to do, but man, it does a really good job in keeping you engaged, and there's plenty of stuff to get done. The actual story is, like, not so in-depth. As I said, you fell in, the dragon was like, you're the prince, aren't you? You have amnesia, because of course you do. And you have to go and save the world eventually, but right now you're just focused on farming. That's fine, nothing wrong with that. It's helped out by the characters though. This is a localized by XC game, so the writing is actually pretty good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's got that nice, cheery, chippy feel that XC games are known for. There's a couple of like real-world memes scattered in there, but the game doesn't take itself too seriously, so it's not like that sort of thing is particularly out of place. So the characters are all pretty well written as well. They're all relatively, what's the word I'm looking for? They're all relatively like simple, right? Like there's nothing particularly in-depth about the characters, at least so far. But they're enjoyable, they're nice characters, the writing on them to give them their own little character traits is good. I got nothing particularly wrong with the way they've all been characterized, and you get plenty of choices because there's plenty of male and female love interests, and you can tell who the love interests are immediately before you even meet them if you turn on the swimsuit DLC. Because of course I did, I'm immature. And pretty much everyone who's important and is actually like a love interest gets a swimsuit. Everyone else just gets their regular clothes. It's kind of funny just how out of place some of them feel in permanent swimsuit day, but that's just a thing. But yeah, the actual characters, the overall quality of the writing, and just the localization in general is pretty well done. I haven't noticed anything in particular in the way of mistakes. As I said, the writing is enjoyable, chipper. high spirits like XC games are usually known for. And yeah, I don't got a problem with it. I enjoy reading the dialogue, at least a lot of the time. It can get a bit repetitive after a while if you're walking around looking for someone, trying to find something in particular, but I mean, that's just kind of how these games roll. The actual combat is a bit more loose though. You basically just have regular attack, you have a few extra attacks you'll learn as you level up, and you have like things like ranged attacks and special attacks that use RP. The combat itself is pretty simple. You just bash away. Sometimes some monsters will be resistant to things like physical weapons, so you need to use things like magical attacks. And that's pretty much it. If it hurts them when you beat them, beat them. If it doesn't hurt so much, throw magic at them and see if that works. You can also get other minor things like increase your followers' defense for the whole day, but it'll cost a huge amount of RP, just extra things like that. But it is pretty simple, and it does feel pretty hack and slashy from time to time. Just go in, whack them, hope for the best. You do have a dash move, but it doesn't give you much distance, and I don't think it gives you invulnerability frames. So it is pretty lightweight. But there are a lot of different kinds of monsters with their own different abilities. You get new monsters every time you get a new dungeon, although you do have to traipse through the same areas to get to them, although you do have the airship, which lets you fast travel. So that's fine. Once you get it, it's usually really quick to get back to a dungeon you died on, and you'll see an example of that in this video. Monsters usually have their own kinds of drops as well, so farming them for specific things isn't the worst idea in any particular sense. There's a bunch of other little things that just give it a little bit more depth, and it also works pretty well. It's not amazing, it's not the best hack and slash combat I've played by a long shot, but it's got a variety of enemies, it's nice and quick, it doesn't suffer from any performance problems, and there's a fair few things you can get, like different weaponry, different tactics to take on. It's lightweight, but it's fine. It plays like a Dynasty Warriors game without the millions of enemies, and that's perfectly okay. You can also do things like, you know, take out the watering can and use that to damage fire enemies, which is great. Like, little details like that really do add to the experience. And yeah, just overall, the overall quality of the gameplay is good. I've got nothing wrong with it. I appreciate the consistent drip feed of new mechanics. I appreciate the different dungeons with different enemy types that you really have to work your way around. Like, I kind of got thrown off guard while I was recording this footage, because later on in this footage, we'll go to the Obsidian Mansion, which kind of has like this whole haunted by ghosts thing going on, which is a little bit of a tone change from the rest of the game, but it's appreciated. There's the boss fights are actually like big. They all take place in 3 phases. You're never going to get through one on the first try, at least if you're playing in on hard mode like I am. They've got different kinds of attacks. They are a bit of a pain to beat, but they're satisfying when you do beat them. And they're all big, threatening, and look pretty damn cool too. The one thing they've got going, the one thing this game's got going for it is that the Switch upgrade really did help out some of the resources they got going on, like the 3D models. While they might look a bit blown up and just not particularly impressive on a full screen, when you're playing this game portably on the Switch, which I did for a few hours, it really works pretty well. But when you've got it all zoomed in like this, you can kind of tell where like they cut corners, quote unquote, when they were porting it to the Switch. Like, you've got things like the quality of the sprites on the ground in the farm there, which don't look particularly great. And sometimes you'll get, like, bad textures. Like, that shield, its overall model is okay, but the quality of the textures that are on it really don't make it look very good. There are a few places like that. But overall, it's alright. Considering that this is a port from a 3DS game, you kind of got to give it some, like, you know, space to breathe. And this game does pretty well with what it has. They do things like increase art of... I assume they do things like increase the size of the CG or stuff like that, you know, minor things to give it that little bit extra oomph, and they did upgrade some of the visual effects as well, or at least I'm assuming so, because I can't imagine the 3DS holding some of like the more intense in-game battle effects that you see later on. As I said though, the one thing I don't really enjoy about this game is the controls, because some of them are just confusing. Like, you've got L, which is a really important button that you need to press in order to, like, swap equipment or put down seeds or what have you. Then you've got ZL, which is the map. And I get those two confused all the damn time. Same thing with ZR and R. You need to hold R. You need to press R in order to dodge. You need to hold R in order to do, like, your second set of special attacks. But for whatever damn reason, I just can't get, like, R and ZR the right way around, and that means I end up just teleporting myself back when I'm trying to use my secondary sets of special abilities or what have you. It can kind of drive me nuts. I really wish there was the opportunity to change it, but one thing about this game that isn't particularly in-depth is the options menu. There's a few things you get. You get the ability to turn the CG art on and off. You get the ability to turn the music on and off, the sound effects on and off, and the voice on and off. You do also get the choice between English and Japanese voiceovers, but if you couldn't tell by listening to this footage, I was using nothing but the Japanese voiceovers, because I don't know why I would do anything else. But that's probably my biggest complaint. I mean, you can nitpick to say, like, I wish I had more of an idea of where to go to do, like, story events, like the story event that we referred to in this footage. You just had to run around a bit to look for the person you were looking for in the case of the story event in question. But outside of little things like that, and, you know, like, things you'd want to blame on yourself more, like, this game needs a fair bit of effort put into its time management, I will not lie, because there is a lot of stuff you can do, and keeping it all keeping it all in sight, it can be kind of a tough ask, especially since they're consistently dropping new mechanics on you from time to time. At least, as I said before, everything feeds back into each other, so if you want to focus on, like, making food or items or anything like that and then selling them, you can do that. If you want to focus on just farming, you can do that. If you want to focus on just combat, well, it's probably not going to turn out too well for you. You probably want to dribble in a bit of everything else, but you can still get resources that you can sell back, because one of the nice things about this game is that as you're wandering around areas, they'll respawn enemies, but they'll also respawn treasure chests. So sometimes you'll have the good luck of coming across, like, food that's worth a few grand. Then you can just pop that into the chest and just go for it. And that I appreciate as well, because it means that your random wandering around looking for the way forward doesn't actually come back to bite you, because they'll just constantly, like, spawn new stuff in the, they'll just constantly spawn new stuff in the world behind you as you go back through it, and I really appreciate that. In fact, I really appreciate a lot of what this game does. So, I've got nothing wrong with Rune Factory 4 Special. I think it's really well done as a farming game. I don't know who developed it, actually. I'd be lying if I said I knew, but the last I heard it was, like, related to Story of Seasons in some way, which is basically what Harvest Moon turned into before it went to shit. But yeah, I like pretty much everything about it. It's all, like, at the moment anyway, considering that I'm still a few hours in, I can understand why, but it's all still pretty surface level, but you've still got all the basic stuff, plenty of types of crops, plenty of ways to, like, make items out of those crops and other items, plenty of ways to upgrade your character just by purely playing, plenty of, like, relationships to have, plenty of monsters to capture and take along with you, plenty of just everything to do to keep you interested. And for first impressions in, like, a farming game like this, that's pretty good, at least in my personal opinion. The port is like, they didn't put in a massive amount of effort into the port, but they put in enough so that it's not massively distracting, at least when you're playing it on the Switch screen. I wish there were more options. I wish you could rebind your controls. But outside of that, everything seems pretty good so far. The farming is good, the crafting is good, the combat is not as good, but still pretty decent, not something I'm going to particularly complain about. Would I recommend Rune Factory 4 Special? Well, again, it's based on time management, so you do have to walk around a bit, and just, you have to be constantly going back and forth, checking on your farm stuff, you have to be doing things like getting like cooking bread for things like recipes. You do need to go and just do all sorts of things on like that sort of daily schedule that these things are known for. And you do, of course, have plenty of like mechanics that are going on in the background that all help you out, but you just kind of have to decide which ones you want to focus on, or if you're a complete autistic savant, you can choose to just focus on everything, and I hope that turns out well for you. Wouldn't turn out well for me, but still, as a farming game, as what these sorts of games do, which is give you a farm to do, give you lots of mechanics to play around with, give you people to befriend who are nice and enjoyable, give you a story with decent enough writing to keep you engaged, and all of the stuff you would expect a farm game to do, it does all that pretty damn well. So if you're looking for that sort of game, I wholeheartedly recommend it. I don't think it's going to change your mind if you're not a fan of these sorts of games, but at the same time, well, this is something that the fans of those other games will probably very much enjoy. Well, there's still an hour left of footage, so I'm just going to let you watch it. I'm not going to let that footage go to waste, so this has been Blue Maxima, and I will see you all next time.
Yes?
こんにちは。
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 いらっしゃいませ。
やった。はあ。できた。
こんにちは。こんにちは。そっちか。
こんにちは。こんにちは。ほら、あと少しです。よっ、せや、頑張って。せや、頑張るんだよ。せや、もう少しです。
君ならできる。
今ですぞ。まだできるよ。お前の本気を見せろ。大丈夫？しっかりせえ。 諦めんなよ。よし、いいぞ。
参りますぞ。ほっほっほ。ほっほっほ。
3
ほっほっほ。
やった。
おめでとう。よく頑張りましたね。
それではまた。
いらっしゃい。いらっしゃい。大丈夫かい？ありがとうよ。またどうだい？また来とくれ。やりました。さすがです。
やるじゃないか。
おめでとうなの。
えっとおめでとう。すごいですね。準備はいいで。
おめでとうございます。
ちょっと今日も一日頑張るよ。
やあ。
こんにちは。
おお。
おめでと
やるじゃ。
う。おめでと
こんにちは。
う。こんにちは。 だきます。ありがとうございます。おめでとう。わかりました。
行けそこだすげえな。
いいですな。
おめでとう。
どうしよう。どうしよう。どうしよう。そうだ。すごい。どうしよう。
おめでとう。いい天気ね。
そうですね。
あら。どう？よし。
お見それしました。
おめでとうございます。ゴミはゴミ箱にね。よくやった。
ベルミナートさん。
どう？
あれ。はあ。え。
あら？どうだい？ブラボー！
へへん。
おめでとうございます。いい天気ですな。
おめでとう。
やるな。
素晴らしい。
はあ、雨か。にゃあ、ふん、ちゅ。よかった。やりました。できた。と。セーフ。せいせいはあよっやはできたよっえいとよたふんえいたせいせややとやふんふんえいふんはあせやせいうわえいふんよしよしよしよしよしよし
おはよう。おはよう。よろしく。いらっしゃいませ。ありがとうございました。
どうしようそこだいけせやはっシュッせいシュッせいはっ今だ
まったく。よし、ですわ。
いけ。いけ。
こんにちは。こんにちは。
こんにちは。
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 そこだ。そこだ。
とどめて。とどめだ。
しまった。いったいったはっはっはっふんよっはっやっえい
とどめだ。はっ
えっと
入りますぞ。それではまた。
たやはっくらえくらえ
リリカとどめだ。くれくれはい
そこだはあはあややった
はっやまだまだ。切り裂け。
よしやっと
切り裂け。
はあ
はっ
せいに行け
とどめだ。
いいはあはあせい
くれやっとどめだ。へい
せや やっはっはっ後ろは任せてくださいはっせやえいせやせはっよっせいふっえいまだとどめだとどめだ切り裂けやったありがとうございますやっとどめだとどめせいたふっ夕方ですよはっはっはっせやはっとどめだピッチまだまだせいはっやせいせいたふったたはとせややはえいせい
ですわ。
ありがとうございますせったせいとやっとはは
やっとどめだ
せやせや
まだ
と
くらえせい 元気が一番よね。大丈夫ですか？こんにちは。
おや、雨だ。
せい。いただきます。
ほらこの夕方ですよ。とどめだ。とどめだ。ありがとうございます。いただきます。りょうちゃん。りょうちゃん。りょうちゃん。とどめだ。必死とどは任せてください。とどめだ。
やられた。